The following, as always, is a work of critical analysis that's covered under copyright law. I hate you, Google. The sound effects in Made in the Abyss are awesome. A lot of times people accuse me of being trite or overplayed in what I choose to talk about. And this one kind of runs that risk too. Like, of course. Yes, I think if you've seen the show, you'd agree. But I want to take a look at one scene in particular and how these sound effects are not only put in the foreground in a way that they're not in so many other anime, but how that allows Made in the Abyss some additional room to work with its tone. The clips from episode 4, there aren't really any spoilers, but just so you know. So when we talk about this show and the events that go on in this show, I think it's really helpful to think of the Abyss as another character. A character that's unknown and sort of unknowable, but also largely indifferent to whatever's going on in the human realm. So this scene is not technically the first time the characters are in the Abyss, but it's the first time they've gone down into the Abyss unsupervised and for their own purposes. The training wheels and the limiters are off. And the first thing we get is Riko's point of view, with Reg looking down on her, and birds? They're very loud here, but they're not threatening at all. So when the next shot goes into a butterfly of all things, we understand the pair is safe. We see a more peaceful side to the Abyss. And as the camera zooms out through Reg's protective barrier, we see that peace and tranquility is only because Reg's metallic arms are protecting Riko. And that fact is emphasized by the loud metallic grinding sound that goes on as we move past Reg's barrier. And note that the VA comes in, but the birds don't stop for the rest of this shot. And throughout the rest of it, we do have the sounds of Reg's arms retracting, and the kind of lower metallic sounds. When Riko runs, the footfalls are very heavy and very pronounced, as well as her breath, and the background music kind of comes in. It's not so much music as it is kind of a tone or a note, and that gets its payoff when the title card comes up and announces the first layer. Riko's got a bit of exposition here about how deep they are, but as they're doing this, in the background you're hearing the ominous tone give way to a sort of wind, a blowing sound. For this next little bit, a few things. Notice that when Riko turns to Reg with her serious eyes on, that's fully fleshed out with sound. And this is where the triviality argument comes in. You may say that of course, it has sound. That's obviously, why wouldn't it? Putting aside the fact that many anime and movies in general don't have the wherewithal or the foresight to put in sound effects like clothes rustling, especially on something so small as a turn, if we consider the clothes rustling a conscious directorial decision, then that means that this show, Made in the Abyss, is going to be a show where clothes rustling matters. That is to say that the scope of the show is focused entirely on things like the sound clothes make, or the wind in the background, or the noises that these characters are hearing when they're in this strange unknown place. And it's very easy here to just say, well, that adds to the immersion and good on them for doing it. There's an air of realism to things like this. If you were going hiking or outdoorsing, this is the type of stuff you would encounter. But Made in the Abyss isn't just content to set its tone with its sound effects. Instead, it goes a step further, and you see that right after this. This entire joke is told with the sound effects, and it's a meaningful joke for their character development. Reg is still taken aback, confused, and hesitant, whereas Riko is completely the opposite, a forward, go-getter, excited, energetic. All of that's told and reinforced by two sound effects and some eyes. There's more rustling of the clothes to add the physicality and the weight behind their actions. And then even the plot is moved forward by a sound effect. So we've seen two uses of sound effects here. The first is atmospheric and environment building, giving the abyss a sense of place and power. The second is kind of these small moments that make it seem like a Disney cartoon. And both of these are placed in the context of explaining to the viewers not only the situations that the characters are in, but their thoughts and feelings as well. This continues all throughout the show. Paper rattles, water flows, and we're never allowed to forget that the characters are in an abyss.
ガンキマスの内臓は傷つけないようにとって燻製にして保存食にする。身の方は豪快に鍋に入れてとこしえ香の実を少々、棒味噌を溶いて刻んでおいた菜の菜をたっぷり入れたら、じゃーん、名付けてリコ汁の完成。